There's a secret that travels through generations, passed down silently from parents to children. A secret so powerful that it shapes personalities, determines destinies, and remains invisible to those who need to see it the most. If you're watching this video right now, it's not a coincidence. You were chosen. Yes, you heard that right. Out of thousands of videos available at this very moment, something led you here. Maybe it was that persistent feeling that, despite all your efforts, something always feels off, or that inner voice whispering that you deserve more than the emotional scraps you've been settling for. What I'm about to reveal is something entire families work tirelessly to keep in the shadows. It's a truth that shakes foundations, challenges norms, and most importantly, sets free those who were chosen to carry burdens that were never theirs to begin with. Have you ever felt like you were playing a role in your own family? As if there were invisible rules everyone follows, but no one ever explained. Patterns that repeat generation after generation, creating cycles of destructive behavior that seem impossible to break. These aren't coincidences or character flaws. They're evidence of a carefully designed system meant to keep certain family members trapped in specific roles, and you might be one of the chosen ones. What you're about to discover in the next few minutes may challenge everything you've believed about your family story. It might stir intense emotions, buried memories, and perhaps even justified anger, but it will also offer something you may have never truly experienced. Clarity. The kind of clarity that comes from finally realizing you're not crazy, you're not overreacting, and you are definitely not alone. This journey won't be easy, but I promise that by the end of this video, you'll have powerful tools to begin rewriting your story and freeing yourself from toxic patterns that may have been sabotaging your happiness for years. If you've ever felt that something in your family just wasn't right, this is the moment to uncover the truth. And if this message is already resonating with you, hit the like button now so more people can access this revelation. Because what we're about to uncover together isn't just a family secret. It's a universal truth that has the power to heal generations. We're a perfect family. In this house, problems are solved behind closed doors. Don't air our dirty laundry. Phrases like these are the sacred mantras of toxic families. Behind them lies a meticulously crafted mask designed to hide the true nature of what happens when the doors close. Have you noticed how some families seem flawless on social media? Perfect vacation photos, harmonious celebrations, synchronized smiles. The so-called butter commercial family. This is the facade toxic families pour enormous energy into maintaining. It's their first line of defense, publicly denying any dysfunction. The signs are always there, but society trains us to ignore them. That tension in the air during Sunday lunches, the way certain topics are immediately dodged, the warning glance when someone is about to say too much. The child who is too quiet, the teenager who is overly responsible, the father who's never around, the mother who controls every detail. Subtle signs everyone sees, but no one mentions. Why does society reinforce these patterns? Because families are considered the foundation of our social structure, and admitting that something so fundamental can be dysfunctional feels too threatening. We prefer to believe in the myth of the sacred, flawless family, where love conquers all, even when the evidence says otherwise. Think of that neighbor everyone knew was a victim of domestic violence, but no one stepped in because couple issues are complicated. Or the child clearly afraid of their own father, yet simply labeled as shy. These are the small social pacts of silence that keep the mask in place. And what's the cost of maintaining these appearances? It's devastating. Imagine living in an environment where you're constantly gaslit, where what you see, hear, and feel is denied. No, your dad wasn't angry. You're just too sensitive. That never happened. You're making things up. This kind of systematic denial leads victims to doubt their own perception of reality. The child raised in an alcoholic household learns early to cancel birthday parties because they never know what state their parent will be in. The daughter of narcissistic parents learns to downplay her achievements because any success brings jealousy and sabotage. The eldest brother becomes a third parent, protecting the younger ones from neglect. And all of them learn to smile for the picture because image is everything. The cost of that mask is dissociation, the feeling of being disconnected from yourself, of living a life that doesn't feel real, of playing a role instead of being authentic. It's the constant sense that something is deeply wrong, yet being unable to pinpoint exactly what. It's the exhaustion of trying to live up to impossible standards while your most basic emotional needs go unmet. The mask of toxic families doesn't just hide dysfunction, it perpetuates it, because as long as everyone is committed to the illusion, no one has to face the truth. And that's exactly what we're about to do now. Rip off the mask and look directly at what's been hiding behind it. In many spiritual traditions, it's said that certain souls are assigned to carry heavier burdens, the chosen ones meant to transform ancestral patterns. What many people don't realize is that these invisible cycles of manipulation are not just psychological. They also have a deep spiritual dimension. These toxic patterns are passed down like a dark inheritance, moving from generation to generation with the precision of a cosmic clock. Pay close attention. The grandmother who endured emotional abuse raises an emotionally unavailable mother, who in turn raises a daughter who becomes codependent in her relationships. The alcoholic grandfather produces a father with repressed anger, who then raises a son with chronic anxiety. These are not coincidences. They are energies seeking healing through the chosen ones in each family. Emotional manipulation techniques in these families often disguise themselves as love and protection. The mother who invades your privacy says she's just worried. The father who controls your choices claims he's protecting your future. The relative who exposes your vulnerabilities in public is simply sharing family stories. These distortions make love feel confusing and conditional. You are only loved when you meet impossible expectations. At the core of this cycle lies what therapists call the drama triangle: persecutor, victim, and rescuer. In toxic families, these roles are assigned and often rotate. One day, you're the victim of harsh criticism. The next, you're called upon to rescue a family member in crisis. And the day after, you're seen as the persecutor when you finally express your rightful anger. This confusing dance leaves everyone exhausted and no one truly grows. How can you tell when you're trapped in this cycle? Your body knows before your mind, that knot in your stomach before Sunday lunch, the tension in your shoulders when you see a certain relative's name on your phone, the unexplained exhaustion after seemingly normal interactions. Your spirit always knew something was wrong, even when your mind tried to rationalize it. The chosen ones often feel this dissonance more intensely. There's a spiritual reason for this. These are souls that came with a divine mission to break these cycles. If you're watching this video and feeling a deep resonance, you're probably one of them, chosen not to suffer, but to transform. Think of families as energetic systems. When one member begins to vibrate at a different frequency, seeking truth, authenticity, and healing, the whole system reacts in an attempt to restore the previous balance. Manipulative tactics intensify. The attacks become more direct. Isolation becomes a strategy, all to force the chosen one back into their assigned role. The most insidious part of this cycle is how it presents itself as the natural order of things. Families are just like that. Love hurts. No one is perfect. These phrases normalize abuse and keep the cycle spinning. But for the chosen ones, these justifications never felt right. Your spiritual intuition always knew something greater was meant for you. This knowledge needs to reach more people. If you know someone who might be living through this cycle, subscribe to the channel and share this video. Together, we can break these toxic patterns. It's no coincidence you're hearing this message right now. It's part of a collective awakening where the chosen are finally finding the courage to transform not just their lives, but the energy of past and future generations. In every toxic family system, there exists a deeply painful phenomenon, the designation of a child as the scapegoat. This isn't a random choice, but a process that is almost sacred in its cruelty. In spiritual terms, this child often carries such an intense inner light that it threatens to expose the family's shadows, and so paradoxically must be diminished. Those chosen for this role carry not only their own pain, but the collective guilt of the entire family system. When the father drinks too much, it's the child's fault for being too difficult. When the mother has a breakdown, it's because the daughter is too demanding. When the parents divorce, it's because raising the children ruined the relationship. The scapegoat child becomes the perfect vessel for everything the family refuses to face. How and why are certain children selected for this sacred and terrible role? Often, it's the most sensitive child, the most intuitive one, the one who naturally asks questions, the one who, from an early age, notices the inconsistencies and hypocrisies, the one who displays talents or traits that provoke jealousy in narcissistic parents, or simply the one who, for some divine reason, was born with a spirit that doesn't fit the family's established narrative. The signs that you were chosen for this role are distinct. Maybe you were labeled the troublemaker, even when you tried your best to be good. Maybe your accomplishments were downplayed while your mistakes were magnified. You likely felt like a stranger in your own family, as if there was a secret language everyone spoke but you. At family gatherings, your opinions were ridiculed or ignored. Your version of events was constantly questioned. That's not how it happened. You're exaggerating. Your memory is off. Certain personality traits make a child more vulnerable to being chosen as the scapegoat. The highly empathetic child who naturally absorbs others' pain. The creative, dreamy child who seems to live in another world. The questioning child who refuses to accept shallow answers. The authentic child who struggles to suppress their true emotions. These qualities, which in a healthy environment would be celebrated as special gifts, become targets for projection and abuse in toxic families. The consequences of being the family scapegoat follow a person into adulthood, creating patterns that seem inexplicable until the truth is revealed. You likely developed a deep distrust of your own perception, the result of years of gaslighting. You may carry a vague but persistent guilt, as if you're responsible for everyone else's happiness. You probably struggle with setting boundaries, allowing others to cross your lines again and again. Many who were chosen for this role grow up to be perfectionists, desperately trying to prove their worth through external accomplishments. In romantic relationships, the patterns repeat. You may find yourself drawn to people who, unconsciously, recreate your family dynamics, where love must be earned through constant self-sacrifice. At work, you might accept less than you deserve or push yourself to the brink of exhaustion, chasing recognition that never seems to be enough. Financially, you may sabotage your own abundance because deep down you don't believe you deserve to thrive. These behaviors are not character flaws. They are adaptations your soul developed to survive in a toxic environment. They are scars of a child who was chosen not because of their weakness, but paradoxically because of their spiritual strength. One of the most powerful revelations for the chosen ones is realizing that, on a deeper spiritual level, carrying the role of the scapegoat might be part of a greater journey. Many spiritual traditions speak of souls that choose difficult incarnations to catalyze growth and transformation, not just for themselves, but for the entire family system. Suffering, when brought to awareness, can be transformed into wisdom. Recognizing that you were chosen to carry the family's guilt is not the end of the journey. It's only the beginning. It's the moment you start to separate what truly belongs to you from what was projected onto you. It's when you begin to question the narrative that has defined your identity for so long. It's the first step toward returning the guilt to its rightful owners and reclaiming the purity of your original essence, the very light that ironically made you a target. What keeps a toxic family system running for generations? It's not power or fear, but something far more subtle and powerful. Silence. A nearly sacred silence that protects ancestral secrets and keeps the chosen ones isolated in their pain, doubting their own reality. This silence is no accident. It is a carefully orchestrated conspiracy, a non-verbal pact that everyone is pressured to honor. Don't talk about what happens at home. Some things are better left in the past. Don't open old wounds. These aren't just suggestions, they are spiritual commands that seal lips and imprison truths. In many toxic families, there are secrets that span generations: abuse, betrayal, addiction, crimes, hidden identities. These secrets are like living entities, feeding off the life force of everyone who keeps them. The chosen ones often feel the weight of these secrets without even knowing what they are. They just sense that heaviness in the air when certain topics are about to be mentioned, that shift in energy when specific questions are asked. When a chosen one starts to question, the conspiracy of silence reveals itself through specific phrases, carefully designed to make them doubt their own perception. It's all in your head. You've always been too dramatic. Nobody else sees a problem with this. You're making things up. Why do you always have to ruin everything? These are not innocent replies. They are tools to maintain the system. Perhaps the most powerful one is the invocation of the sacred family bond. Family is family. This simple phrase carries a devastating implied message. Blood ties are more important than truth, justice, or even individual well-being. What's really being said is, your pain matters less than our image. Your suffering is an acceptable price for our stability. The role of shame in this conspiracy cannot be underestimated. Shame is the most efficient guardian of silence. When a child is taught to feel ashamed of their emotions, needs, or perceptions, they learn to stay quiet. And not just outwardly, but they silence their inner voice as well, the divine voice that whispers the truth. Fear walks hand in hand with shame. Fear of abandonment, rejection, retaliation. Many chosen ones suffer in silence for years, afraid that speaking the truth will result in losing their family's love altogether. On a deeper level, there's a fear that by speaking out, they might completely destroy the family. It's an immense spiritual burden to feel responsible for the integrity of the entire system. Why doesn't anyone speak openly about this? Because toxic systems are masters at creating division. They isolate members, control narratives, and ensure that each person has a slightly different experience of the toxicity. One daughter may be the idolized princess, while the son becomes the scapegoat. One sibling might witness abuses the others never saw. This fragmentation of family reality ensures that there's never a unified testimony against the system. On top of that, our society still sanctifies the family above almost everything. We question religions, governments, institutions, but the family remains almost untouchable. Those who dare to speak up are often seen as traitors, ungrateful, or problematic. How can you talk like that about your own mother? Your father did the best he could. They sacrificed everything for you. The most painful revelation for many chosen ones is realizing that their intuition was always right. That feeling that something was deeply wrong wasn't insanity. It was spiritual clarity. Those memories you were convinced to doubt really happened. The uneasiness you felt in certain family environments was your soul recognizing harmful energies. Breaking the conspiracy of silence doesn't necessarily mean confronting the family publicly. It means, first and foremost, allowing yourself to recognize your truth internally, to honor your perception and validate your experience. For the chosen ones, this is not just an act of personal healing, but a spiritual liberation that can finally begin to dismantle patterns that have persisted for generations. There are invisible marks that the chosen ones carry, soul scars that don't show up on X-rays or blood tests, but that affect every aspect of their lives. These marks are not random, but specific patterns that manifest as revealing signs. Recognizing them is the first step on the path to spiritual liberation. On an emotional level, one of the most common signs is the difficulty in setting healthy boundaries. The chosen ones often grow up in environments where their boundaries were routinely violated, their privacy invaded, their feelings dismissed, their personal space disrespected. As a result, you might find yourself swinging between having no boundaries at all, letting everyone into your energetic space, or building walls so high that no one can truly get close. Another revealing sign is people-pleasing behavior. The compulsive need to make others happy, often at the expense of your own well-being. You learned early on that your safety depended on keeping others content, anticipating their needs, being the one who never caused trouble. Don't be a burden. Don't make a fuss. Be grateful for what little you have. These unspoken messages create adults who bend over backward to please, terrified that if they stop giving, all the love will disappear. The difficulty in identifying and expressing emotions, known as alexithymia, is another common sign. In toxic families, certain emotions are forbidden. Anger, sadness, fear, or even too much joy can trigger negative reactions. The chosen ones learn to suppress these emotions so deeply that they lose touch with their own inner world. "I'm fine" becomes the automatic response, even when they're falling apart inside. The physical body also carries the signs. Chronic gastrointestinal issues, persistent headaches, muscle tension, sleep disturbances, immune problems. The body keeps score when the mind must forget in order to survive. Trauma research shows that adverse childhood experiences are directly linked to physical illnesses in adulthood. Your body has been trying to tell your story through these symptoms, waiting for you to finally listen. In relationships, the patterns are strikingly predictable. You might feel unconsciously drawn to people who recreate the toxic dynamics of your childhood, emotionally unavailable partners, friendships where you give more than you receive, relationships where you feel invisible or not enough. There's a strange familiarity in this pain, as if part of you believes it's the only kind of love you deserve. In the professional world, the chosen often face very specific blocks. Imposter syndrome, the constant feeling that you'll be found out as a fraud, no matter your accomplishments. Difficulty accepting recognition or promotions, a tendency to overwork to prove your worth, or the opposite extreme. Self-sabotaging opportunities because you don't believe you deserve success. Financially, limiting beliefs around money and abundance are common. Money is the root of all evil. Rich people are greedy. You should be content with little. These messages, often passed down in dysfunctional families, create a complicated relationship with money, from compulsive spending to extreme hoarding, from paralyzing financial anxiety to total neglect of planning. What's most insidious about these signs is how normalized they are by society. Workaholism is praised as dedication. Perfectionism is celebrated as excellence. Codependency is romanticized as true love. Emotional suppression is admired as strength or resilience. These cultural distortions make it even harder for the chosen ones to recognize that their behaviors aren't personality traits. They're adaptive responses to toxic environments. A particularly painful sign is the persistent feeling of being different, of not belonging, even among close friends or family, as if there's an invisible wall separating you from everyone else. This isn't just social anxiety. It's a manifestation of learned dissociation, a survival tool that allowed your spiritual essence to remain intact while your outer self adapted to the toxic environment. If you're resonating with this content, share your story in the comments using "You're chosen but stronger." Your experience might help others recognize their own patterns. Remember, these traits are not flaws, but adaptations of a powerful soul that did what it had to do to survive. The very fact that you're watching this video suggests that the time has come to transform those survival mechanisms into conscious tools for thriving. Recognizing these signs is not the end. It's only the beginning of the journey. It's the moment when you start to see that what you always thought were your personal flaws are actually proof of your extraordinary ability to adapt and the strength of your spirit. The chosen don't just carry wounds, they also carry the seed of their own healing. Why is this secret kept? To truly understand the power of this dark secret within toxic families, we need to explore why it's guarded so fiercely. It's not just about shame or appearances. There are very real benefits for those who keep the system running, and much larger forces invested in keeping the chosen ones in the dark. Within the toxic family itself, the advantages of maintaining the system are obvious. For the dominant members, usually the parents or authority figures, the system provides power, control, and service. When there's a designated scapegoat to absorb all the blame, they never have to face their own flaws. When there's an emotionally responsible child taking care of everyone's needs, they never have to grow up. When family members are conditioned to tolerate anything for the sake of peace, no one ever has to change. This dynamic creates a perverse emotional economy where some constantly extract value while others are drained to the point of exhaustion. The system sustains itself because those in power are highly motivated to preserve it, while those who suffer are conditioned to doubt their own perception of reality. But the preservation of this secret goes far beyond the bounds of the individual. Family. Our society in many ways depends on the normalization of toxic family dynamics. Religious institutions often reinforce rigid hierarchies and unquestioned obedience. Honor your father and mother becomes a tool of control when disconnected from any expectation of proper parental behavior. One-way respect is preached as a virtue, and questioning is labeled as rebellion or lack of faith. Our education systems rarely teach emotional intelligence, boundary setting, or critical thinking about family dynamics. On the contrary, they often replicate the same power hierarchies, preparing children to accept authority without question, perfect for both dysfunctional families and future exploitative workplaces. The mental health industry, though well-intentioned, often pathologizes natural responses to family trauma. The hypervigilant child is diagnosed with ADHD. The teenager expressing justified anger is labeled with conduct disorder. The adult who develops protective mechanisms against abuse is treated for a personality disorder. The medical system rarely asks what happened to you, preferring instead to ask, what's wrong with you? On a broader level, there is an economy that profits from your suffering and disconnection. People disconnected from themselves consume more, trying to fill internal voids with external experiences and possessions. Traumatized individuals often turn to addictions, alcohol, drugs, gambling, compulsive shopping, generating profits for powerful industries. Those with low self-esteem become ideal workers, willing to accept unfair conditions out of fear of losing approval. Who profits from your silence? Every system that prefers you seek external validation rather than trust your inner wisdom. Every institution that values conformity over authenticity. Every economic model that relies on insatiable consumers trying to fill emotional emptiness. This knowledge is dangerous to the status quo because people who awaken to the truth about their families inevitably begin to question other power structures. In their lives, those who recognize family manipulation will recognize media manipulation. Those who set boundaries with toxic parents will set boundaries with abusive bosses. Those who heal their need for external approval become immune to marketing strategies rooted in insecurity. The chosen ones who awaken to this truth pose a threat not only to their dysfunctional families, but to an entire social and economic system, built on the same foundations of denial, manipulation, and exploitation. Your personal healing becomes an act of spiritual and political resistance, a declaration that you will no longer participate in your own oppression. The real reason this secret is so vigorously kept is because your awakening doesn't just affect your individual life. It holds the power to spark a collective transformation. And that's exactly why the chosen ones are waking up now in ever-increasing numbers, ready to reclaim not just their personal truth, but to contribute to a profound shift in collective consciousness. The path to liberation begins with a single moment, that sacred instant of clarity when the truth finally crystallizes in your awareness. For many chosen ones, this video might be that catalyst, the turning point where years of confusion and pain suddenly gain context and meaning. This awareness is not just an intellectual realization, it's a deeply spiritual experience, a soul awakening. This moment of clarity often comes with a complex mix of emotions. Relief, realizing you're not crazy, that your perception was always accurate. Anger, for the injustices suffered and the years lost in destructive patterns. Sadness, for the love and acceptance you deserved but never received. Fear of what it means to move forward with this new understanding. And paradoxically, guilt, for betraying the family system by acknowledging its dysfunction. Allow yourself to feel all of these emotions without judgment. They are not just reactions, they are vital parts of your healing process. The chosen ones were often conditioned to repress negative emotions, especially anger. But appropriate anger is protective energy, an indicator that your boundaries were violated. Your anger is not just justified, it is sacred, a sign that your soul recognizes its true worth. The next essential step is to identify your specific role in the family system. Were you the scapegoat, carrying the collective blame? The hero, responsible for elevating the family's status through achievements? The caretaker, meeting emotional needs that should have been the adult's responsibility? The peacemaker, suppressing your own needs to maintain harmony? Understanding your role helps separate adapted behaviors from your true essence. With this awareness, you can begin implementing practical techniques to break the cycle. The most fundamental is setting boundaries, physical, emotional, and energetic. Boundaries aren't walls to keep others out. They're portals that define how others can interact with you. I can't accept this type of communication. I need to end this conversation now. This doesn't work for me. These simple phrases may feel impossible to say at first, but become easier with practice. Another powerful technique is the gray rock response, dramatically reducing the supply of emotional energy in toxic interactions. No drama, no overreactions, no feeding the conflict cycle. This isn't a tool for all relationships, but it can be essential in cases where complete distancing isn't immediately possible. Reparenting is another transformative tool, the process of becoming the loving parent you needed as a child. Start speaking to yourself with the kindness and understanding you always deserved. It's okay to feel this. It wasn't your fault. You're doing the best you can. This loving inner voice gradually replaces the critical voices, internalized from your caregivers. Be prepared for the initial challenges of this journey. When you begin to change, the family system often reacts with surprising force. There may be attempts to make you doubt your new awareness. You're overreacting. You're being influenced by others. Family members may shift between open anger and subtle manipulation. Some may threaten to abandon you, while others escalate their attempts to control you. Also recognize that some relationships may need to be limited or even temporarily cut off for your emotional and spiritual safety. This is perhaps the most painful part of the process, accepting that not everyone we love is capable of supporting our healing. Distancing is not an act of anger or punishment. It is an act of self-love, and sometimes the last hope that distance might spark transformation. Now, a practical exercise for you, chosen one watching this. Take 5 minutes today to sit in silence and ask your body, what are you trying to tell me? Notice the physical sensations that arise when you think about certain family members or specific situations. Your body has always known the truth. It has been trying to communicate it through signals you were conditioned to ignore. This simple act of internal listening is revolutionary. It is the beginning of reconnection with your innate wisdom. Remember, liberation doesn't happen in a single moment of revelation. It is a daily practice, a journey of small acts of courage and authenticity. There will be days of clarity and strength and days of doubt and relapse. Be gentle with yourself on both. The very act of becoming aware of the patterns is already a profound transformation. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unknow what you now know. The chosen ones carry within them extraordinary resilience. The same strength that allowed them to survive toxic environments will now fuel their liberation. You already have everything you need to begin this sacred journey back to yourself. After taking the first step toward liberation, the chosen ones often face perhaps the deepest challenge: rebuilding an identity that has been fragmented by years of toxic conditioning. This is not a surface-level process of positive thinking or simply adopting new habits. It's a sacred journey of rediscovering your true spiritual essence. The first component of this reconstruction is reconnecting with your true self. The part of you that existed before your family system began shaping your personality. In moments of silence, ask yourself, what brought me natural joy as a child before I was told who I should be? What talents or interests were discouraged or mocked? Which parts of me were sacrificed just to survive? These answers hold valuable clues to your authentic nature. The chosen often go through a necessary period of grieving, not just for what they endured, but for what they never had. Allow yourself to mourn the childhood you deserved, the loving parents you never had, the emotional support that was denied to you. This grief is not self-pity. It's a spiritual process of honoring the truth of your experience. Tears unshed for decades finally find release, creating space for new possibilities. As you reconnect with your true self, old relationship patterns naturally begin to shift. You may find that certain friendships no longer resonate with your new vibrational frequency. People who once benefited from your diminished self-worth may now feel uncomfortable with your newfound confidence. This isn't a sign you're on the wrong path. It's evidence that you're outgrowing connections rooted in dysfunction. Establishing healthy boundaries becomes not just a technique, but a way of life. You learn to honor your physical space, your time, your emotional needs, and your personal truths. No becomes a complete sentence with no need for elaborate justifications. This doesn't work for me becomes a valid response, free from guilt. This newfound clarity in your boundaries not only protects your energy, it sends a powerful message to the universe about how you expect to be treated. One of the most liberating realizations for the chosen is the distinction between biological family and chosen family. Your biological family was determined by fate, but your chosen family, the people who truly respect, support, and celebrate your authenticity, is created consciously. Many chosen ones find a sense of belonging among friends, mentors, and partners that they never experienced with their families of origin. This identity reconstruction also involves reclaiming aspects of yourself that were labeled as negative by your toxic family. Your sensitivity, once called weakness, is actually an extraordinary gift of empathy. Your emotional intensity, dismissed as dramatic, is in fact a deep capacity to feel. Your questioning, seen as rebellion, is actually discernment and critical thinking. As you redefine these traits, they shift from vulnerabilities into superpowers. Authentic spirituality, not fear-based or control-driven religiosity, becomes a vital pillar for many chosen ones. Reconnecting with a higher power that transcends human limitations brings perspective and comfort. This spiritual connection may arise through nature, meditation, art, or any practice that makes you feel part of something greater than yourself and your circumstances. Perhaps the most transformative aspect is the change in your life narrative, the story you tell about yourself. From passive victim to protagonist of your own journey, from broken to beautifully imperfect, from rejected to someone who consciously chooses their connections, this new narrative doesn't erase your past pain. It acknowledges that your story doesn't end there. In fact, your real story is only beginning. Remember, this reconstruction process is not linear. There will be days of crystal clear clarity, followed by moments of deep doubt. Old programming may resurface during times of stress. What matters is not perfection, but direction. Each conscious step pulls you further away from limiting patterns and closer to your true nature. Those chosen ones who complete this journey of reconstruction often realize that their suffering had a higher purpose. It transformed into wisdom they can now offer the world. The very qualities that once made them targets, sensitivity, intuition, emotional depth, become their greatest gifts to humanity. We've reached the end of this revealing journey. But for you, chosen one who stayed until now, this is only the beginning of a new chapter. Let's revisit what we've uncovered together in this exploration of the dark secrets of toxic families. We began by recognizing the invisible pattern that shapes entire generations, a system that assigns certain members the burden of carrying disproportionate weight. We saw how toxic families maintain a facade of normalcy, hiding deep dysfunctions behind smiling photographs and phrases like, "We're a close-knit family." We explored the cycle of manipulation passed down through generations, a spiritual cycle awaiting transformation through the chosen ones. We understood how certain children are cast as scapegoats, not because of weakness, but paradoxically because of their radiant strength and transformative potential. We exposed the conspiracy of silence that keeps these systems running, the phrases, taboos, and unspoken pacts that protect ancestral secrets. We identified the telltale signs that you grew up in a toxic family, from emotional patterns to physical symptoms, from career blocks to relationship challenges. We questioned why this secret is so fiercely guarded, not just by families, but by social, religious, and economic systems that benefit from your internal disconnection. And finally, we mapped out a path toward freedom and the reconstruction of your true identity. This journey is not for the faint of heart. It takes extraordinary courage to face painful truths and challenge narratives that have shaped your identity for decades. But you, chosen one who made it this far, have already proven you carry that courage in abundance. So what lies ahead for you now? A future where toxic patterns no longer dictate your choices. A future where relationships are built on mutual respect and authenticity, not manipulation and control. A future where your sensitivity, intuition, and emotional depth are honored as sacred gifts, not exploited as weaknesses. Above all, you now have the opportunity to break cycles that have persisted for generations. When you heal yourself, you're not just transforming your own life, you're altering an ancestral lineage. The patterns that end with you will not be passed on. This is perhaps the greatest responsibility and privilege of the chosen, to be the point of transformation in a long chain of inherited pain. This awakening is happening now on a global scale for a reason. Our world is at a tipping point, desperately in need of new forms of connection, authenticity, and healing. The chosen ones who reclaim their truth become beacons for others, showing that it's possible to break free from limiting conditioning and live from a place of inner freedom. I want to express my deep gratitude to you for having the courage to watch this video all the way to the end. I recognize what this act represents: your willingness to face uncomfortable truths in the pursuit of genuine liberation. This kind of courage is rare and invaluable, and it's exactly what the world needs most right now. By watching this video to the end, you've taken the first step. Now, help strengthen this community of people seeking healing. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, leave a like, and share in the comments which part impacted you the most. Together, we are stronger than any toxic pattern. Remember, you weren't chosen to suffer, but to transform. You weren't selected to carry guilt, but to speak truth. You weren't made a scapegoat, but a catalyst for a new consciousness. The dark secret of toxic families loses its power when it's brought into the light. And you, the chosen one who now knows this truth, carry a torch that not only lights your own path, but also shows the way for others still walking in the dark. This is not the end of your story. It's just the true beginning, and what a powerful story it will be.